discuss the stories that have got us all talking. We've got Gyles, Brandreth, and we've got the lovely Nick Ferrari. Sitting close together, I love it. Can I just ask, Gyles?
The legend in the flesh.
I've made it.
Is there a mini Gyles anywhere? Is there a mini Gyles?
Gyles, you haven't done a voodoo doll of yourself, have you?
It's not a voodoo doll. You may have seen yesterday that the Queen has been turned into a Barbie doll. And one of our lovely viewers has created a mini me, a little version of me.
I love that.
It's fantastic.
Considerably more hair, I have to say. Turn it round. Come on, there we go. A lot more hair.
So cute.
My wife is going to keep it apparently as a pincushion. I mean,
I like the fact you've probably got your tongue out as well. You just sort of...
Just it's quite fun, isn't it?
Very nice.
There you are. Enough nonsense.
We know who that is. Who did that? Do we know? I'm not going to put you on the spot.
You do put me on the spot.
I didn't mean to.
But anyway, I'm very grateful to her.
Thank you, viewer, wherever you are. All right, let's kick off with Boris to face the fresh inquiry. MPs have backed the formal investigation into whether Boris Johnson lied to Parliament. The investigation held by the Privileged Select Committee will rule on whether Mr Johnson intentionally, which is the key, misled Parliament, a breach of the ministerial code that's considered a resigning issue. Number 10 launched an attempt to delay the inquiry, but it U-turned amid pressure from Conservative backbenchers concerned the public would punish them in next month's local elections. I'll start with you, Gyles, just because you've had experience of this sort of thing. I thought there would be a vote, and then they call the vote off, and then
you call the vote off.
I was in the car listening, and they just sort of had a nod, and then it just went through.
What happens is this: the Whip's report. This is going to be sticky. We're going to have a revolt. It's going to look embarrassing tomorrow because they're going to be X number of Conservative MPs who've actually voted with the opposition. So better to pull the whole thing.
Oh, OK.
And so not dispute it at all. So it then goes through on the nod. So nobody objected to it, and it passed. The line the government now takes is, we want to get this out of the way, we've got nothing to hide, let the investigation proceed, we will meanwhile get on with running the country. The Prime Minister is in India, trying to secure a trade deal, trying to stiffen the resolve of the Indian people in terms of Ukraine. I'm doing my job, let them investigate, and we'll see what happens.
I think it's bigger than this, and Gyles will know better than I. I think this speaks to the Prime Minister's authority. If, as is being reported in 2 separate newspapers, you've got 6 ministers who are saying, I'm just not going to toe the line, and I've had enough of going out on the round, as it's called, you know, they come out every morning, then his authority is starting to be questioned. There are almost parallels when Margaret Thatcher found herself, I think it was in Paris or in Brussels, as everyone started to plot. The Prime Minister finds himself in India. He had to go, by the way. He'd already cancelled this once. It is the height of rudeness not to go to one of our big trading partners. But I think he will be looking at this, he will be reflecting on this, and this is the 3rd investigation. But to counter it, Dermot, Alison, I have to say, there's a poll in the papers today that says that 66% of people, 66% possibly of your viewers, have said, enough already, enough time, enough money, we know what happened, it shouldn't have happened, let's move on with the cost of living in Ukraine. And that's the reality of it.
Tricky, isn't it? Because for every one person you can find that says that, there's another person.
Indeed.
I sat by while I watched, you know, a loved one.
And that's a personal investment that will never go away. If you said goodbye to Grandma, or you were unable to say goodbye to Grandma, this is a personal investment. That's why it's so tough for Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Where do you think it's going to go from here?
It's not over yet.
I think it's ugly.
It is ugly. It is difficult, and he has lost the confidence of a number of Conservative MPs. But whether he's lost the confidence of enough to actually put him on the line, I don't know.
Well, Gyles will know there is a rumour going around that, in fact, the penalty, the party that he has been found guilty for, there are suggestions that there are others. There could be one of pictures inside the Prime Minister's residence, that would get very ugly, Dermot, if that were true.
Well, if I was the Prime Minister and I knew pictures were going to come out, I'd just listen, I'm going now, so that the pictures don't get seen. OK, let's go on to this next story. It's an interesting one. Nadine, the Educational Secretary, has rejected calls for a ban on parents smacking children in England, revealing that his wife has occasionally given their daughter a light smack on the arm.
I bet she was thrilled
this is interesting.
To hear him say that.
I know, like, she proper outed her.
That was fun when he went home.
Firstly, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go with the first question. It says, has any of you smacked your children? I'm not going to go there. You don't have to answer that.
I haven't, by the way.
What do you think about that? I like a naughty step. What do you like?
Oh, a naughty step's good. Well, actually, a fierce voice, in my case, terrified the children.
Really?
No.
Just that look?
No, stop it.
And that was enough.
That is actually quite... that is quite...
Straight out of the Thatcher playbook, that, wasn't it? No.
But I belong to a different generation, because I was brought up in the 1950s watching a television show called The Adventures of Billy Bunter of Greyfriars School. Billy Bunter was the most popular programme for children in the 1950s. Ran for 10 years. Billy Bunter was as famous as Harry Potter is today. Anyway, the point of the story is that the boy was beaten in every episode. And we all sat around laughing about it. And it was a different world. There was another TV series, you may even remember it, called Wacko.
Yeah,
Jimmy Edwards.
Jimmy
Edwards.
Okay.
Big moustaches. He was the headmaster of a school. It was called Wacko because the whole theme was the whacking of children.
Yeah.
It began with a cane being flexed. The music was in time. So it was a totally different world. And people of my grandparents' generation believed in a little gentle chastisement to bring a child to... But it isn't necessary. It's a good idea that it shouldn't be allowed. But I can see what he is saying is, let's be reasonable. Within a household, you will occasionally be, oh, no, don't.
Yeah.
And we'll, you know, tap a child.
But it's that point where you've kind of lost control. At the point, if you hit your child, that's the point where you have
You've
kind of lost control. You're not in control anymore, are you?
I think you're absolutely right. If an adult starts hitting a child, you've lost the argument. For me, it was I had two sons. It would be taking them out of the situation, actually leaning down at their level. So then it was eyes on eyes. So I would say, and explain why it was unacceptable and trying to take a pause. But I don't like the idea that the government has total control of how we bring up our children. I think there should be laws in place not to allow you to go back to the days of Billy Bunn. But I don't know the government have the right to tell me how to raise my child.